Coyne's book, Why Evolution is True. Review and Scientific Critique. Jerry Coyne's book, Why Evolution is True, is a narrative of the modern theory of evolution by natural selection. Coyne argues that the evidence from fossils, genetics, biogeography, and comparative anatomy supports the idea that all life on Earth shares a common ancestor, and that the diversity of life we see today is the result of gradual, evolutionary processes. Coyne presents a good case for microevolution, the idea that small changes within species lead to adaptation over time. However, his argument for megaevolution, the development of entirely new body plans and higher taxa through natural processes, does not hold up to rational investigation. As a rational thinker, I recognize the contributions of evolutionary theory in explaining some aspects of biological change, for the lower taxa, such as species and genera. However, there are significant omissions in Coyne's treatment of the topic, particularly when it comes to irreducible complexity, the origin of complex specific functional information, and the limits of natural selection. This review and critique will address some of the scientific shortcomings in Why Evolution is True, and offer an alternative perspective that includes intelligent design as a more rational explanation for the complexity and diversity of life. 1. Microevolution versus megaevolution, Coyne's limited scope. Coyne's book does a good job explaining microevolution, the process of small changes within populations over time. He provides evidence from fossils, genetics, and observations in nature to demonstrate how species adapt to changing environments. For example, the book discusses the peppered moth and Darwin's finches as classic examples of natural selection in action. These examples illustrate how organisms can adapt through small variations that improve their chances of survival. However, while Coyne is convincing on the topic of microevolution, he does not sufficiently address the challenges of megaevolution, the process by which entirely new body plans and higher taxa arise. The Cambrian explosion remains a significant challenge for Coyne's gradualist view of evolution. During this period, which took place about 540 million years ago, a vast number of complex life forms suddenly appeared in the fossil record, many of which had entirely new body plans. These new organisms emerged without gradualistic chronologically and morphologically intermediate forms leading up to them, showing that mega-evolutionary changes cannot be explained through gradual, small-scale changes. Coyne downplays the difficulty of explaining such large-scale evolutionary changes by appealing to the same mechanisms that govern microevolution. But this approach fails to account for the sudden appearance of new phyla and the complex structures that characterize life during the Cambrian period. The origin of entirely new body plans requires the introduction of vast amounts of genetic information, and gradual mutations and selection are inadequate to explain such a leap in biological complexity, as we have discussed in other videos. 2. The problem of irreducible complexity. One of the major defeaters of Darwinian evolution that Coyne does not adequately address is the issue of irreducible complexity, a concept introduced by biochemist Michael Behe. Irreducible complexity refers to biological systems that require all of their parts to function properly, such that removing any single part renders the entire system inoperative. Examples of irreducibly complex systems include the bacterial flagellum, the blood-clotting cascade, and the vertebrate eye. In general, Coyne dismisses the concept of irreducible complexity, claiming that gradual evolutionary processes can account for these complex structures through mechanisms like co-option, where existing parts are repurposed for new functions. However, Coyne provides no detailed step-by-step testable and falsifiable biochemical explanation for how such complex systems arose through co-option or any other evolutionary mechanism. The bacterial flagellum, for example, functions as a rotary motor with a core of about 20 different protein components. If any one of these components is missing, the flagellum ceases to function. Coyne's gradualist approach cannot explain how natural selection could create and preserve non-functional intermediate stages of such a system. The concept of irreducible complexity points to the fact that some biological systems were designed, rather than evolved through undirected processes. These systems appear to be optimized for their specific functions, and the step-by-step development proposed by Darwinian evolution fails to account for the development of multiple interdependent parts, followed by their spatial and temporal assembly into an integrated functioning machine. 3. The origin of biological information. Another major defeater of Coyne's evolutionary model is the origin of biological information. All life depends on genetic information encoded in DNA, which functions like a language or a code. The genetic code carries instructions for building proteins, regulating cellular functions, and passing on traits from one generation to the next. The question is, where does this information come from? Coyne assumes that mutations and natural selection can account for the vast amounts of information required to build the complex organisms we see today. However, mutations generally degrade information rather than create it. The second law of thermodynamics indicates that disorder tends to increase over time, even in open systems, and mutations are more likely to result in harmful or neutral changes than in the production of new, functionally specified genetic information. The creation of new complex specified functional information is a major defeater of materialist explanations of evolution. Information theory shows that functional complex information, such as that found in DNA, does not arise from random processes. In every other domain of human experience, we know that functional information requires a mind to create it. Books, computer programs, and blueprints all require an intelligent author or designer. The complexity of the genetic code, with its highly specific and organized sequences, points to an intelligent cause rather than the result of blind chance. Coyne does not address this fundamental challenge in his book, choosing instead to assume that mutations and selection can account for the origin of life and the information-rich structures in living organisms. This is a significant oversight, as the question of where biological information comes from remains one of the biggest defeaters of materialist explanations for the origin of higher taxa in evolutionary biology, so the limits of natural selection. Coyne's reliance on natural selection as the primary mechanism driving evolution is also problematic. While natural selection can explain adaptations within species, such as changes in beak shape or coloration, it does not explain the origin of entirely new traits, organs, or body plans. Natural selection acts on existing genetic information. It does not create new complex specified functional information or add new functional structures to organisms. For example, natural selection can explain why a population of moths might change color in response to a changing environment, but it cannot explain, with step-by-step testable and falsifiable biochemical steps, how an entirely new organ system like the eye, wing, or brain evolved from simpler precursors. These kinds of large-scale evolutionary changes require coordinated mutations in multiple genes, which is empirically impossible to occur through random processes. The complexity and specificity of these changes show that natural selection, while useful in explaining minor adaptations, cannot account for the full scope of life's diversity and complexity, in particular for the origin of the complex information and structures needed for the origin of the higher taxa. 5. Philosophical implications, materialism and reductionism. Finally, Coyne's defense of evolution is grounded in a materialist and reductionist worldview, which assumes that everything in nature can be explained by natural processes and physical causes. This worldview excludes the possibility of intelligent design or any kind of transcendent cause for life. However, materialism is a philosophical, faith-based stance, not a scientific conclusion. Science, properly understood, should remain open to all possible explanations, including those that point to intelligent causes. Coyne's materialism also cannot account for non-material aspects of human existence, such as consciousness, morality, and the ability to engage in abstract reasoning. These features of human experience show that there is more to reality than what can be explained by physical processes alone. The Christian worldview, by contrast, recognizes that human beings are made in the image of God, endowed with rationality, moral responsibility, and purpose, traits that transcend the material world. Conclusion: a reductionist and incomplete explanation for life. While Jerry Coyne's Why Evolution is True presents a persuasive case for microevolution, it does not explain, with step-by-step testable and falsifiable biochemical steps, the origin of new body plans, the origin of biological information, and the development of irreducibly complex systems. The mechanisms of natural selection and random mutation, while effective in explaining small-scale changes, cannot generate the complexity and diversity of life at the mega-evolutionary level needed for the origin of the higher taxa. Furthermore, Coyne's materialistic worldview limits his ability to consider alternative explanations, such as intelligent design, that better account for the specified functional complexity we observe in biological systems. A more complete understanding of life must move beyond reductionist materialism and recognize the reality of purpose and design in nature, a recognition that points to an intelligent creator who has endowed the universe with purpose, order, and life. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And comment below if you agree or would like to add your thoughts. If you would like me to respond to your comment, please make a Level 1 comment directly below the video. I will respond to all polite Level 1 comments, even if it takes me a while, due to other commitments.